Fairy tales have charmed children and adults alike for centuries. Often passed down orally long before being written down, these stories entertained, warned and educated listeners in societies that relied heavily on narrative traditions. While on the surface, fairy tales might appear to be simple tales of magic, love and heroism, beneath the glitter of fairy godmothers and enchanted castles lies a rich subtext of psychological, moral, political and cultural commentary.
The classic plot.
Cinderella is the rags-to-riches story of a kind, gentle girl mistreated by her step-family who, through magical intervention, attends a royal ball and captures the heart of a prince.
The deeper meaning.
Patience and virtue. At its core, Cinderella is a moral tale about the virtues of patience, humility, and grace. Her suffering is eventually rewarded, reinforcing the belief that virtue will triumph, even if not immediately. Class and social mobility. The fairy tale also serves as a social fantasy. In societies where social classes were rigid, Cinderella's story offers the possibility, however magical, of mobility through marriage. The glass slipper fits only her, suggesting that her qualities, purity, virtue, destiny, are unique and unreplicable. Stepfamily as a symbol. The stepmother and stepsisters represent cruelty masked by social civility. Their mistreatment of Cinderella highlights hypocrisy in the upper classes, those who seem genteel but harbour envy and malice.
Little Red Riding Hood, Sexual Awakening and Stranger Danger.
The classic plot.
A young girl ventures into the forest to visit her grandmother and encounters a cunning wolf who tricks and devours both the girl and her grandmother. In some versions, they are saved by a woodsman.
The deeper meaning.
Coming of age and sexuality. In the 17th century French version by Charles Perrault, the red cloak represents the onset of menstruation, a symbolic entry into womanhood. The wolf, a male predator, lures the girl off the path, indicating the dangers of sexual curiosity or impropriety. Stranger danger. The tale also serves as a cautionary narrative warning children, especially girls, to obey authority and avoid strangers. The path becomes a metaphor for socially accepted behavior, and straying from it leads to ruin. Predatory men. In many versions, the wolf uses manipulation and disguise, techniques reminiscent of abusers and predators. This casts the tale as a warning to young women about the deceptive nature of some men.
The classic plot.
A beautiful girl becomes the target of her stepmother's envy and is eventually poisoned. She falls into a death-like sleep until a prince awakens her with a kiss.
The deeper meaning.
The jealous queen as societal pressure. The evil queen represents aging and societal obsession with youth and beauty. Her jealousy stems not just from Snow White's looks, but from what those looks represent: fertility, desirability, and social worth. The Seven Dwarfs and domesticity. Snow White, while independent in her escape, still ends up caring for 7 men. This dynamic reinforces traditional gender roles, suggesting that even in exile, a woman's place is in the domestic sphere. The Sleeping Beauty motif. Her suspended animation until rescued by a prince reinforces passive femininity, the idea that a woman's life truly begins when chosen by a man.
The classic plot.
Two siblings are abandoned in the forest by their impoverished parents. They find a candy-covered house owned by a witch who tries to eat them. The children outsmart her and return home with treasure.
The deeper meaning.
Economic hardship. This tale emerges from times of famine and poverty. Parents abandoning children was a grim reality during hard times, a reflection of desperation rather than cruelty. The witch as a cannibalistic threat. The cannibal witch is a metaphor for death by starvation. The house of sweets is a trap, much like temporary indulgence that leads to ruin. This also reflects distrust of those offering too good to be true kindness. Siblings as survivors. Unlike many fairy tales where girls are passive, Gretel is instrumental in defeating the witch. This shows a shift toward valuing intelligence and cooperation over passivity.
The classic plot.
A young woman agrees to live with a beast in exchange for her father's life. Over time, she falls in love with the beast, who transforms into a prince.
The deeper meaning.
Learning to love the other. The tale encourages looking beyond appearances. In historical contexts, women often married men they barely knew. The beast could symbolize a stranger or a rough man with hidden virtues. Domesticating the male. The story can be read as a fantasy of taming male aggression through compassion. Beauty changes the beast, reinforcing the ideal that love can civilize brutishness. Stockholm Syndrome debate. Modern critics have pointed out that Beauty's gradual affection for her captor echoes the psychology of Stockholm Syndrome. While originally a romantic transformation story, it can also be seen as a tale of emotional manipulation.
The classic plot.
A princess is cursed to prick her finger on a spindle and fall asleep for 100 years, only to be awakened by a prince's kiss.
The deeper meaning.
Puberty as a curse. The spindle prick marks the transition from childhood to womanhood. Her long sleep mirrors the societal suspension of female autonomy until male validation, marriage or sexual awakening. The role of time. The 100-year sleep removes her from life, suggesting that women's agency is put on hold until the right time, typically aligned with the arrival of a man. Female silence and consent. Like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty is passive. Her consent is absent, raising questions about agency and patriarchal control.
The classic plot.
A mermaid longs to live on land and sacrifices her voice to gain legs, hoping to win the love of a prince. He marries another, and the mermaid dies or transforms, depending on the version.
The deeper meaning.
Sacrifice of voice. Sacrifice of self. Losing her voice symbolizes loss of agency and identity, particularly relevant for women navigating patriarchal societies. She literally cannot speak for herself. Yearning for a different world. The mermaid's longing is a metaphor for migration, cross-cultural transformation, or unfulfilled dreams. Tragic love. Unlike other fairy tales, love here does not conquer all. The mermaid's love is not reciprocated. The message is poignant. Not all sacrifices are rewarded.
The classic plot.
A young girl is locked in a tower by a sorceress. A prince discovers her and helps her escape, but not before tragedy strikes.
The deeper meaning.
Hair as sexual symbol. Rapunzel's hair, used by the prince to climb to her, represents sexuality and fertility. Her isolated life is a metaphor for controlling female purity. Parental control. The witch who locks Rapunzel away symbolizes overbearing parental figures or societal restrictions placed on women. Pregnancy as punishment. In early versions, Rapunzel becomes pregnant after meeting the prince. This was a veiled warning about the dangers of premarital sex and loss of innocence.
The classic plot.
A girl is forced to spin straw into gold. A strange creature helps her in exchange for her child. She can break the contract only by discovering his name. The power of names. Knowing Rumpelstiltskin's name gives the girl power over him. In folklore, names are symbolic of identity, authority, and control. Female exploitation. The girl is used as a bargaining chip by her father, and later the king. She's a pawn in a world of male dominance, finding her only power through cunning and discovery. Deals with the devil. The story warns against making desperate bargains with mysterious figures. Helps her in exchange for her future child, representing the dangers of short-term solutions with long-term consequences.
The classic plot.
A princess befriends a frog who eventually transforms into a prince after receiving her affection.
The deeper meaning.
Disguised virtue. The story is about looking past revulsion to find worth. The frog's outward appearance masks a noble interior. Marriage as a transaction. In older versions, the frog insists on sleeping in the princess's bed, making the tale more about reluctant consent in arranged marriages. Revulsion and acceptance. The frog symbolizes the unpleasant parts of life or relationships that, when accepted, reveal beauty and grace. Fairy tales endure not because of their whimsical plots, but because of the deep messages they carry, often veiled in magic and metaphor. They reflect the collective unconscious, societal fears about sex, aging, power, poverty, and virtue. Whether reinforcing traditional roles or challenging them, these tales are mirrors held up to their cultures. Modern retellings often reshape or subvert these messages. Disney versions, for example, smooth out the darker edges, replacing brutal warnings with happy endings. But the original versions remain essential cultural artifacts, offering insight into the moral and psychological landscapes of bygone eras. Understanding the secret messages behind famous fairy tales enriches our appreciation of them, not just as entertainment, but as encoded history, psychology, and sociology.